Most men think that when a woman tests them, she's being difficult, dramatic, or manipulative. But that's not always true. What if her test isn't about control, it's about safety? What if every moment she challenges you, questions you, or pulls back isn't to frustrate you, but to understand if you're real? Here's the truth that most guys miss. Women test men because they want to know if the man they're investing emotions in can handle reality without falling apart. It's not about games, it's about trust. When a woman likes you, her emotions are at stake. She doesn't want to give her heart to someone who only acts confident when things are easy. So, when she says something that feels like a challenge, or when she suddenly becomes distant, it's not just to test your patience. She's reading your reaction. She wants to see how steady you are when things don't go your way. Your tone, your body language, your silence. These are all signals to her subconscious that tell her if you're dependable or impulsive. Think about it. Life will always test a man, through stress, failure, and uncertainty. If she sees that you can stay calm and grounded with her, it gives her a sense of emotional safety. It tells her, if this man can handle me at my most confusing, he can handle life. That's powerful. Many men fail these moments not because they're bad people, but because they take it personally. They get defensive, emotional, or try too hard to prove a point. But passing a test isn't about winning an argument, it's about showing self-control. It's about staying composed when your ego wants to react. Here's something most people won't tell you: the test isn't really about her, it's about you. How you respond under emotional pressure defines your value far more than what you say. A woman's test only exposes what's already inside you: stability or chaos, patience or pride. The hidden reason she tests you isn't to make you feel small, it's to feel safe around you. Because to her, safety isn't found in muscles or money, it's in your calm. One of the biggest misunderstandings men have about women is thinking every test, question, or emotional shift is a form of control. But here's the truth: most of the time it's not about control at all. It's about finding security. A woman doesn't want to control you, she wants to understand you. She wants to know where you stand when things get uncertain. When she challenges your opinion or your decision, it's not always to argue, it's to measure your certainty. Can you lead without losing your temper? Can you stand firm without disrespecting her? That's what she's searching for. When a woman feels unsafe emotionally, she starts to test boundaries, not because she enjoys conflict, but because she's checking if the ground she's standing on is stable. Every human needs safety to love freely. For men, that safety often comes from respect and trust. For women, it comes from emotional reassurance and stability. So when she questions your actions or decisions, it's like her way of asking, "Can I depend on you when I'm unsure?" If your response is calm, patient, and steady, she feels grounded. But if you respond with anger, sarcasm, or defensiveness, she feels uncertain. Not because you failed a test, but because your reaction shook her sense of stability. A lot of men confuse leadership with control. Leadership is calm confidence. Control is insecurity disguised as strength. A man who truly understands himself doesn't need to dominate anyone. His presence alone gives peace. When a woman sees that kind of strength, she naturally relaxes around him. She doesn't need to test as much because she already feels safe. But if she senses you're pretending, acting confident only when things go your way, she'll keep testing until your true nature shows. Remember this: a woman doesn't want to control your life, she wants to trust that you can control yourself. That's where real attraction begins, not in power but in peace. If you can master your emotions, she won't have to question your stability. Because the moment she feels secure around you, the tests fade, and trust takes over. Here's something that most men still don't believe: your emotional stability is more attractive than your looks. Yes, appearance gets attention, but it's your energy that keeps it. You might catch her eye with your face, but you keep her heart with your calm. Women are naturally drawn to energy that feels safe and grounded. When you're emotionally stable, you don't react to everything. You don't chase validation, and you don't let small things shake your peace. That kind of control gives off quiet power, and power is attractive. Think about how most people act when they're nervous around someone they like. They overthink, they talk too much, they start trying to impress. But the man who can stay centered, who doesn't lose himself in emotion, stands out. He's different. He feels like home, steady, confident, reliable. You've probably noticed this before. A man who may not be the best looking somehow always ends up being the one she can't stop thinking about. Why? Because he gives her emotional consistency. She knows who he is even when things go wrong. That's rare, and rare always attracts. Women live in a world that constantly shifts between emotion and logic. When they find someone who can handle both, who doesn't judge them for feeling but also doesn't drown in those feelings, it creates a deep connection. It feels safe. The truth is, emotional stability shows maturity. It says you've faced chaos and learned from it. It says you know how to lead without control and love without fear. That's what separates a man from a boy. Not money, not muscles, not social status, but emotional strength. So yes, looks might open the door, but your composure decides if she stays. The most magnetic thing a man can have isn't a perfect face, it's peace. The kind of peace that can calm a storm without saying a word. Because when you're emotionally stable, you're not just attractive, you're unforgettable. Let's be real, most men don't fail women's tests because they're weak. They fail because they don't understand what's happening. They take things personally. They hear a question and feel as though they are being attacked. They sense distance and start chasing. They mistake emotional tests for rejection. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men are trained to react, not to respond. When a woman pulls away, they panic. When she questions them, they argue. When she goes quiet, they rush to fix it. But what she's really watching isn't what you do, it's how you do it. If your mood changes every time hers does, she realizes you're emotionally dependent. That's when attraction starts to fade. Because a woman isn't drawn to a man who mirrors her chaos, she's drawn to one who can calm it. Too many men think being real means expressing every feeling immediately. But maturity means controlling that energy. Not hiding emotions, mastering them. When you can pause before reacting and listen without defending yourself, that's a sign of strength. The problem is, most men have never been taught this. They're trained to impress, not to lead. They believe effort means chasing and explaining, when in reality, effort means staying grounded when things get confusing. Here's where the criticism comes in. Men have to stop letting their emotions be controlled by approval. You can't keep losing yourself trying to prove your worth. That's not love, that's insecurity. When a woman tests you and you instantly crumble or overreact, what she sees is inconsistency. Absolute confidence doesn't need to perform. It doesn't need to beg. It simply is. So if you keep failing these tests, it's not because she's cruel, it's because life is trying to build you. Every challenge is asking, can you remain calm when things aren't going your way? If you can't handle pressure from someone you love, how will you handle the world? Stop reacting. Start observing. Because when you master your response, you stop being tested, you start being trusted. Sometimes the loudest thing a man can say is nothing at all. In a world where everyone's trying to prove something, silence has become rare and powerful, especially when emotions run high. When a woman pulls away, questions your intentions, or creates emotional tension, most men panic. They text more, call more, explain more, thinking that more words equal more clarity. However, the truth is that when emotions are high, logic often gets lost. No amount of talking can fix what only calm can solve. Silence isn't weakness. It's self-control. It's saying, I don't need to convince you of my worth, you'll feel it. Because when a man speaks less, every word he does say starts to matter more. This isn't about playing games or ignoring someone. It's about communicating with energy instead of desperation. When you stay calm and quiet in emotional moments, it shows maturity. It tells her you're not trying to win, you're trying to understand. Begging, over-explaining, or reacting emotionally might feel right in the moment, because you want to fix things. But to her, it often signals instability. It says, I need you to feel okay so I can feel okay. That's not strength, that's dependency. Silence, on the other hand, allows space. It lets her reflect. It shows that you're secure enough to wait instead of chase. And ironically, it often draws her back faster than words ever could. Because peace attracts, pressure repels. When you stop chasing every emotional moment with explanations, you give both sides a chance to breathe. You show that you're not driven by panic, you're led by composure. And in that space, understanding grows. So remember this, silence isn't the absence of care, it's the presence of control. A man who knows when to speak and when to stay quiet isn't cold, he's wise. Because in the end, you don't win someone's respect by talking louder. You win it by standing still when everything around you is shaking. A lot of men get this part wrong, they confuse confidence with arrogance. They think being confident means being loud, always right, and untouchable. But that's not confidence, that's insecurity wearing a mask. Absolute confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It's quiet, calm, and consistent. Confidence isn't about showing dominance, it's about being predictable in your strength. When a woman sees that your mood, tone, and behavior don't constantly change depending on how she acts, she starts to trust you more. That predictability creates emotional safety. She knows who she's dealing with. She knows what to expect. And that stability feels attractive. Arrogance, on the other hand, is unstable. It demands validation. It tries to prove power by belittling or bragging. But confidence doesn't need attention. It naturally earns respect through presence. A confident man doesn't try to impress, he expresses. He knows who he is and that's enough. His emotions aren't a performance, they're balanced. You can disagree with him and he won't fall apart or fight to be right. That's power, the kind that doesn't depend on being above anyone. Here's what most men don't realize. A woman isn't drawn to your ego, she's drawn to your consistency. If one day you're patient and composed and the next day you're frustrated and defensive, she feels uncertainty. And uncertainty kills attraction faster than anything. When you're confident, your reactions don't change based on approval. You remain steady whether she's praising you or challenging you. That's what makes her relax around you, the sense that your emotions are under your control, not hers. Arrogance says, "Look at me." Confidence says, "I'm good either way." When you master that calm predictability, you stop chasing validation, because you've already validated yourself. And ironically, that's what makes people respect you even more. So remember, confidence isn't noise, it's balance. It's the quiet message that says, you can rely on me not because I'm perfect but because I'm consistent. That's what separates a boy trying to be seen from a man who already knows his worth. A lot of men, you can say all the right things, promise loyalty, talk about respect, express care, but if your actions don't match, none of it matters. Words might impress her mind for a moment, but consistency earns her trust forever. See, women notice patterns more than promises. They pay attention to how you behave when no one's watching, how you respond when you're frustrated, how you treat her when things aren't convenient. That's what builds or breaks attraction. A lot of men think they lose women because they didn't say enough, but the truth is, they usually lost her because they stopped being consistent. They changed their tone, energy, or behavior once they got comfortable, and that shift tells her something deeper. Maybe he was never that man to begin with. Consistency isn't about being perfect. It's about being reliable. It's about showing up the same way whether you're winning or struggling. When you're consistent, she stops guessing your mood. She starts trusting your character. That's the quiet power that keeps attraction alive, predictability in behavior. Because let's be honest, anyone can be nice when things are good. But real strength shows when life tests your patience. When you stay calm and steady through ups and downs, you send one message without saying a word: I'm not pretending. This is who I am. And here's what makes it powerful. When a woman sees that your behavior isn't a performance, she feels safe being herself too. She opens up more. She trusts more. The emotional wall comes down because you've proven you won't crumble when things get real. Many men keep talking, explaining, convincing, when they should be showing. Because people don't remember what you say, they remember what you do repeatedly. So stop trying to sound right, be reliable. Stop promising change, live it. Because in relationships, words might start the story but consistency writes the ending. And the truth is, a calm, dependable man will always be more attractive than a loud, unpredictable one. Get this part wrong. They confuse confidence with arrogance. They think being confident means being loud, always right, and untouchable. But that's not confidence. That's insecurity wearing a mask. Absolute confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It's quiet, calm, and consistent. Confidence isn't about showing dominance. It's about being predictable in your strength. When a woman sees that your mood, tone, and behavior don't constantly change depending on how she acts, she starts to trust you more. That predictability creates emotional safety. She knows who she's dealing with. She knows what to expect. And that stability feels attractive. Arrogance, on the other hand, is unstable. It demands validation. It tries to prove power by belittling or bragging. But confidence doesn't need attention. It naturally earns respect through presence. A confident man doesn't try to impress, he expresses. He knows who he is and that's enough. His emotions aren't a performance, they're balanced. You can disagree with him and he won't fall apart or fight to be right. That's power, the kind that doesn't depend on being above anyone. Here's what most men don't realize. A woman isn't drawn to your ego, she's drawn to your consistency. If one day you're patient and composed and the next day you're frustrated and defensive, she feels uncertainty. And uncertainty kills attraction faster than anything. When you're confident, your reactions don't change based on approval. You remain steady whether she's praising you or challenging you. That's what makes her relax around you, the sense that your emotions are under your control, not hers. Arrogance says, "Look at me." Confidence says, "I'm good either way." When you master that calm predictability, you stop chasing validation, because you've already validated yourself. And ironically, that's what makes people respect you even more. So remember, confidence isn't noise, it's balance. It's the quiet message that says, you can rely on me not because I'm perfect but because I'm consistent. That's what separates a boy trying to be seen from a man who already knows his worth. Here's the part that confuses most men. Everything seems to be going perfectly, she's affectionate, responsive, and then suddenly she starts pulling away. She gets quieter. The energy shifts. You start wondering what went wrong. But here's the truth. Sometimes she pulls away not because she's lost interest, but because you've lost your edge. In the early stages, you were mysterious, focused, and self-assured. You had your own life, your own pace. But once comfort sets in, many men unconsciously shift their balance. They start prioritizing her mood over their purpose. They stop leading the relationship with presence and start following it with emotion. Comfort turns into complacency. You stop doing what made you attractive in the first place, your ambition, your discipline, your focus. And she feels that. Not because she wants drama, but because she senses that the man she was drawn to is slowly disappearing. Women are emotionally intuitive. They can tell when your energy shifts, when your world starts to revolve around them instead of staying balanced. That's when attraction fades. Because what pulls her in isn't just love, it's respect. When you stop challenging yourself, stop growing, stop keeping the same standard you had before you got comfortable, she begins to test again. Not out of cruelty but out of confusion. She's trying to see if the man she admired is still there beneath the comfort. The truth is, relationships thrive when both people stay evolving. But too many men use love as a reason to relax, to let go of their drive. That's when the emotional distance starts. She doesn't want to lead, she wants to feel your direction. She wants to feel like she's beside a man who still moves with purpose. So if she starts to pull away, don't panic. Don't beg. Don't overthink. Just look inward and ask, did I stop being the version of me that inspired her respect? Because when comfort kills effort, attraction dies quietly. But when you keep growing, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, she won't need to pull away. She'll lean in. Respect isn't given because of what you say, it's earned by how you behave when things get tense. And nothing builds or destroys respect faster than the way you handle your emotions. A lot of men think they lose respect because they're not successful enough, tall enough, or rich enough. But the truth is, you lose respect the moment you lose control of yourself. The moment you start yelling, begging, or letting frustration lead you, you show instability, and that shakes trust. Every relationship has emotional moments. Disagreements, misunderstandings, silence, they're all part of human connection. But what defines you is how you show up in those moments. A man who can stay calm under pressure becomes dependable. A man who lets anger or panic take over becomes unpredictable. When you don't react emotionally, it doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care intelligently. You understand that not every battle deserves a reaction. You know when to speak and when to stay quiet. You know when to lead with patience instead of pride. That's emotional strength, and it's rare. Here's what many don't realize. Women respect emotional control because it signals maturity. It tells her that you can handle not just her emotions but your own. It tells her you can navigate chaos without making things worse. That's the kind of man people can trust. If you lose your cool every time things get hard, she doesn't feel safe, she feels like she has to manage you. But when you stay steady, even when she's emotional, you flip the dynamic. You create balance instead of tension. Real power isn't in reacting fast, it's in responding right. When you hold your ground with calm confidence, you set a tone that demands respect without saying a word. Because in the end, people don't respect perfection, they respect composure. Anyone can be strong when things are smooth. But the real test of a man is how calm he stays when everything around him starts to shake. That's when respect is either earned or lost forever. Here's the part many men don't want to hear. The test never really ends. Not because women are playing games, but because life itself never stops testing who you are. Every new stage of a relationship, every challenge, every misunderstanding, it's another moment that reveals your strength or your weakness. In the beginning, her tests might look small. Little questions, moments of silence, a few emotional shifts. Later they come in bigger forms, how you handle pressure, stress, temptation, or failure. The deeper the bond, the deeper the test. And that's not a punishment, it's proof that she's still watching to see if your foundation is solid. This is where many men get tired. They think, why should I keep proving myself? But it's not about proving anything. It's about maintaining what you built. Just like a strong body needs constant training, a strong character needs constant awareness. When you stop showing emotional consistency, when you stop leading with calm and purpose, the balance shifts. Because attraction isn't static, it's alive. It breathes through energy, growth, and presence. The moment you relax too much, life checks your alignment again. So don't look at the test as an attack. Look at it as a mirror. Every reaction you give shows you what's still unhealed, what still triggers you, what still controls you. Passing the test isn't about winning over someone, it's about winning yourself. A man who understands this stops fearing the test. He embraces it. Because he knows that every emotional challenge is shaping him into someone calmer, stronger, and more intentional. Remember this, the test never ends because growth never ends. And when you reach that mindset, the relationship becomes easier. You stop chasing peace and start creating it. You stop trying to be perfect and start being consistent. Because in the end, what keeps her, what earns respect, and what gives you peace, is not passing one test. It's becoming the kind of man who no longer fears them. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. A woman doesn't truly fall in love with your words, your looks, or your money. She falls for how safe she feels when everything about you could fall apart. That's the quiet power most men ignore. You don't earn safety by talking. You earn it by consistency, by calmness under pressure, and by the way you handle moments that would break other men. So if she tests you, don't take it personally. Take it as feedback from life itself. Because the day she stops testing you, it might be the day she stops caring. Let's talk. What kind of test have you faced before and how did you handle it? Drop it in the comments below. I'll be reading them and responding, because this channel isn't just about talking at you, it's about building men who actually understand.